Good morning and welcome to the Cable Television and Advisory Board Comcast Franchise Renewal Subcommittee meeting. As Vice Chair of the Cable Television and Advisory Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are A, providing access to the public by access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom through the city's IT department for this electronic meeting. All members of the Cable and Advisory Board and the public has access to contemporaneously listen in to this meeting through dialing the following number: 929-205-6099. Once again, that number is 929-205-6099, and using meeting ID number 849-5727-8864. And once again, that meeting ID number is 849-5727-8864. Password is 022855. Again, the password is 022855. The public may also view this meeting on Comcast Channel 16. B, we are providing public access of the necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting through public postings. Instructions have also been provided on the City of Nashua's website at nashuanh.gov and publicly noticed at Nashua City Hall and the Nashua Public Library. And C, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anyone has a problem accessing the meeting via phone or Channel 16, please call 603-821-2049. Once again, that number is 603-821-2049, and they will help you connect. And D, adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event that the public is unable to access the meeting via the methods mentioned above, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. So let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance, and when each member states their presence, please say the reason they're not able to attend the meeting in person. Please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during the meeting, which is required under the right to know law. So I'm going to go along my screen. So Mr. Johnson.
I'm Pete Johnson. I am here. I can hear everybody, and I am at home today, at least this morning, with under the governor's, it's now safer at home orders. I'm not sure. I believe that's what it is at the moment. So,
Mr. Painter.
My name is Jeff Painter. I'm here in the office. I'm alone. In the next room is Frank Wallen, running the broadcast in the studio, and I can hear everybody.
Mr. Miservich.
Nick Miservich. I can hear the meeting. I am alone. And I am at home in observance of social distancing guidelines.
Ms. Kleiner.
Good morning, Kim Kleiner. I am alone in my office at City Hall. I am social distancing per the governor's order.
Alderman Jettie.
I'm here alone and I can hear the proceedings.
Attorney Bolton.
I'm in my office, socially distant, alone, and I hear everything quite well.
And Vice Chairperson Lindner, I am in my office. I can hear everything, and I am alone, social distancing per the governor's emergency order. All right, let's start the agenda. The first item is review and approval of the 2022 community survey. Did everyone receive that?
Yeah, Madam Chairman, this is Alderman Jettie. Yes, I took a look at the survey and I can't get it up here in front of me right now. But I noticed I think I noticed something, at least in my mind, and perhaps people more familiar with it can correct me if I'm wrong. But I think it was the last question, or it was a question about how did you learn about COVID? And it had a bunch of choices, your Boston TV station, WMUR was a choice, local newspapers, etc. But cable TV, cable news was not one of the choices. And I thought that was, I know a lot of people look at, CNN and MSNBC, and I hate to say the word, but Fox News. So those are all cable provided, I think. So I don't know if that should be included as a choice. I know there's other there, but I thought cable news would be a good item to add.
Yes,
And
Mr.
maybe we
Painter.
can add, Jeff Painter, various news cable networks.
Mhm.
As
I believe that the idea behind the question was to find out what local information you were finding out about COVID-19, and maybe a rewording of the question might be better than broadening the answer.
Well, Alderman Jettie here. So, like there's a New England Cable News is a, local, they provide local news, but you can access them only through cable. I was just trying to give people the choice that, that cable news was one of the things that was available, but
Right.
I really didn't study it as well as probably most of you others did. So I'll accept the committee's whatever the committee decides to do on that.
I don't see any harm in adding the cable news. I don't know. Does anyone else have any opinions or feedback? Ms. Kleiner?
Kim Kleiner, I do agree with Alderman Jettie. I do think that there are members of the public that look to local cable stations as well. The question was about gaining your local COVID news. I wouldn't want to necessarily change the question, as I think that part of it is important. But I agree adding cable news would be a good option.
Does anyone else have any feedback? Attorney Bolton, do you see any issues with adding that?
None.
Was there any other feedback on the questions or any additions that you wanted added or anything that didn't appear clear? No. So do we feel like we're at a point we can take a vote to approve the survey?
Yeah, Alderman Jettie, I'll make a motion that we approve the survey as with that amendment.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it. Pete Johnson.
All right, we'll do a roll call vote. So we'll start with Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Painter,
yes,
Mr. Mizovich,
Yes.
Ms. Kleiner,
Yes.
Attorney Bolton,
Yes.
Alderman Jettie,
Yes.
and I also vote yes. All right, the motion passes. Thank you very much for all your hard work on putting this together. Right, there were a few additional materials that were sent over. So some were sent over by Mr. Painter and some were sent by Ms. Kleiner and Attorney Bolton. So how would you like to handle going through these additional documents? Would the sender like to address them, or I guess Mr. Painter, you sent a bunch over. Would you like to start and then we can go through them and answer any questions, or?
Jeff Painter, speaking of, I had sent are you talking about what we want to have go on the website?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm
There were-
sorry.
there were some additional
I was just amending our survey here, so I can get it out to you guys. Let me just, all right, here we go. Yeah, so Pete and I went over this, and we were just thinking that, we don't want to say a lot on the website because it'll just confuse people. I mean, it'll be too much said. So, really, what is a cable franchise agreement? And under federal law, Comcast, it must have a franchise agreement with the city of Nashua, known in the document as the local franchising authority to operate its cable system. Franchise agreements allow companies to operate a cable system in the public rights of way in return for certain benefits to the city. Under the agreement, the city is allowed to operate on agreed upon number of access channels as a public service. However, the city may not set cable TV rates or impose channel requirements other than those allowed by the law. And then I put in the section of the Cable Act that refers to that. And then the next thing would be what is a franchise fee? And the cable television franchise fee is an annual fee charged by the city of Nashua to Comcast as compensation for using public property the city owns as right of way for its cable. The franchise fee is set during negotiations of the franchise agreement, and the agreement lasts for a set number of years, decided at the time of negotiations. Franchise fees are governed under Section 622 of the 1984 Cable Communications Act. The city of Nashua charges 4% of Comcast gross revenue that comes from the operation of the cable systems for the provision of cable services, including the above mentioned public education and government access channels. These channels are referred to by the acronym PEG. It is important to understand that the franchise agreement only covers cable-related services and facilities, and then I referenced that part in the Cable Act. When the Cable Act was written in 1984, the internet didn't exist, and when it was updated in 1992 and 1996, the internet was still in its infancy. So we just put that thought that, just to kind of less is better. I don't want to go through a whole, definition of everything.
Mhm.
I think this would be put up on the website as a prelude to the, getting to the survey, correct?
Yeah, I'm sorry, because then what is your opinion? And at the bottom of that, where it says, thank you for taking time to provide there'd be a link to the survey. The survey wouldn't be there because obviously where would it go? So the link would be there, and I don't really know how that works, but it would link to something that, we could gather when people fill them out. But I'm not sure how that works.
Okay. So there was another document that was sent over as well. I think, did that come from you, Ms. Kleiner? System.
Madam Chairman, Alderman Jettie here.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Before you leave that, so I've lost it now, but let me see if I can get it back up here. So when at the end of the first paragraph, it says the city may not set cable TV rates or impose channel requirements other than those allowed by law. So does that refer to allowed by law? Does that refer to rates or channel requirements or both?
I believe it's only channel requirements, Alderman.
Okay. And are those channel requirements so extensive and complicated that we can't say what they are? I don't know about other people, but when I read that channel requirements other than those allowed by law, I'm thinking, well, what are those? What channel requirements can we impose? Is it
We can ask for PEG channels. They're not limited necessarily to the 3 that are currently here. I know Merrimack has just renegotiated their contract and asked for a 4th channel in their agreement with Comcast. The other thing is, by law, at least currently, there are must-carry channels in local areas. So in this area, the Boston stations, over-the-air stations, and WMUR are considered must-carries for the cable system. They also carry a station out of Canada right now, but that's not a must-carry. They could drop that channel and we would have no say over that. So those are the 2 reasons that some channels might be required by the cable company.
so? So the Boston stations are required by law. So our ability to impose channel requirements is really, limited to how many, local access channels we can.
Correct. So it's pretty limited what we have control over. And that's why I think Mr. Painter didn't want to, sort of open up a can of worms there necessarily, but gave information on where to go to find that information if you wanted it.
Yeah, Jeff Painter. Well, I'm a little confused though now with it. I mean, the cable rates, because we can't really set cable rates. I mean, that would be that's something totally out of our realm. Now, Comcast is required to give us notification when their rates change and what they are, but we can have no say in what those rates are.
Right. And I think
I
your document says that.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. I'm sorry. I think I got confused on what you were talking about. So it is this, the city may not set cable TV rates or impose channel requirements other than, and Alderman Jettie, maybe that was it, other than those allowed by law, which would be the PEG channels, and I didn't want to put numbers because it doesn't have to be 3. It could, just as Pete just had said, that you can ask for more if that comes up.
Attorney Bolton, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I think the issue may be that the phrase "other than as allowed by law," or however that sentence ends, I think is somewhat ambiguous, maybe even misleading. In some people may think there's a big carve out of certain things that we can require, and actually the carve out, if that's what it is very narrow and very limited.
Correct.
So I think it might even be best to leave that last phrase out and just say we can't control rates or make channel requirements. I think that the PEG channels are really different from trying to say you have to provide Showtime or you have to provide ESPN or something like that. The ability to negotiate for PEG channels is of a different nature than requiring certain channels, certain networks.
Yeah, Alderman Jettie here. Yeah, I think Attorney Bolton's suggestion is an excellent one. I think that, in my mind at least, it says what you want to say without opening the door to to questions that really don't really aren't germane to this discussion. I mean, mean, the truth is um, imposing channel requirements, we really can't impose any channel requirements. So I think eliminating that phrase, other than those allowed by law, is a good idea. So I would suggest we do that, eliminate that.
Mr. Painter?
Jeff Painter, again, yeah, a matter of less said is better. And I also, if it's okay, I'll keep that, reference to where it is in the, so if somebody did want to go into more detail, they could go to the Cable Act and they could read what everything is allowed and not allowed. Okay, so
Well, I think it'd be good for everyone to read the entire act.
over 3 weekends.
I think everybody ought to read the entire US code. I think that would be helpful.
Okay, do we have any other comments or concerns about the document that Mr. Painter reviewed?
It's Pete Johnson. I had one other thing, potentially, when he talked about franchise fees, it might be best to say that allows for up to 5% rather than talking about what's in our current contract.
Ms. Kleiner, did you have something to add?
So the document that we're discussing is the paragraphs, Mr. Poner, correct me if I'm wrong, the paragraphs that you're suggesting we put in front of the survey. Is that correct?
Correct, the link to the survey, yeah.
So then I think this may not be part of the previous motion. But we also have to discuss, if we're looking at moving forward with this, the deadline, because the deadline is in those paragraphs as well. So if we're going to get it up on the website, I would think we should try to nail that down.
So Alderman Jettie here. So taking one thing at a time, whether we should put 4% in there or up to 5%. My initial reaction is I had the same question, whether it wouldn't be better just to say, that the city may charge up to 5%, opening the door for the possibility that, this is not part of the discussion at the moment, but, I think everyone is aware, certainly I think everyone on this committee is aware that the city is facing very difficult budget issues, and whether or not an additional 1%. I know the argument was made the last time that this contract was looked at, that since it's a pass-through to the consumer, that there was a reluctance to increase the rate to 5%. It's not up to us at this point to decide, what it should be, but there's certainly a possibility that we would want to increase it, just as a way of, the city is very limited as to where it can raise its money, and the state keeps imposing additional burdens on the city. The state has a lot more ability to raise revenue. The city is very limited to pretty much just the property tax. So, this alderman being on the budget committee, and I'm certainly, I'm certainly interested in whatever ways the city can raise additional revenue, given the constraints that we're under. So without deciding whether we would increase it to 5%, the fact that we are allowed to charge up to 5%, I would be in favor of changing that to say that the city of Nashua may charge up to 5% of the Comcast gross revenue.
I would think we would need to say, this is Pete Johnson, that it's only gross revenues on the television portion of the bill. So if you are only a Comcast internet subscriber, you would not have any additional charge. So.
Tony Bolton, did you have something to add?
The problem with saying anything is if you don't give all the information, you leave a misleading impression. And the fact is, there was a change, an amendment to the law a couple years back, that this franchise fee is not just 5% or 4% or whatever percent off the gross revenues, send a check, and then negotiate whatever other benefits the city is going to get, like the PEG channels, like service to some city facilities, that sort of thing. That's sort of how it used to be. They provide whatever they provided in the way of PEG channel. They provide services to some or all of the schools, some or all of other city buildings. As a result of the change in the law, the cost, as measured by what it would cost retail if they were providing these services to anyone else, basically, is part of that 5% max. So it's not just a question of we're getting 4% now. If we moved it to 5%, we'd get 25% more. They would subtract out the cost of all the other services the city gets, and it's not clear whether that would result in any increase in revenue. It may be if they sharpen their pencils, they could, in fact, pay us less in cash, and these in-kind services they're providing would add up to the other 1% plus. And I don't know that. I've got no idea what they would say the cost of these things are, but the accounting is gotten more complicated.
Mr. Mizovich, did you have something?
Yeah, I just Nick Mizovich. Just a question is, we state, the city of Nashua charges 4%. Would it be better to say the city of Nashua receives 4%? Just to clarify things.
Sounds good to me.
I would agree.
Yeah, Alderman Jettie says that's an excellent idea.
Do you want to have some way of saying that receives 4% of the 5% allowed by law, so that you still have your 5% cap in there?
Yeah, Alderman Jettie here. After hearing what Attorney Bolton had to say, this is a lot more complicated than I realized. So maybe it would be better just to leave it out at this point, and it's, if we decide to increase it, and if that makes sense, that that's it's really not necessary to put that into this this paragraph.
Yeah, Nick Mizovich, I agree. It's especially with what Attorney Bolton explained, this is not the right spot for that. So why add more confusion.
I might just say, add the word currently receives 4%.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Painter, did you get all those changes? You're on mute. Oh, you're on mute.
So Alderman Jettie here. So to Mr. Johnson's point, it does say 4% of the gross revenue that comes from the operation of the cable system for the provision of cable services.
I think it should say cable TV and not cable system, because people can confuse that with thinking that the internet is also there, or their telephone service if they get it through Comcast. So I think somewhere we need to state that it's the cable television side of things.
Yes,
Although this is what I was putting down, but I don't think we're going to do this, but the city may receive up to 5% of Comcast gross cable television revenue. And then I put in parentheses, Nashua currently receives 4% that comes from the operation of the cable system for the provision of cable services. So we don't want the 5% in there though. Is that correct, or we do?
I don't think we wanted the 5%. I think we
5%,
wanted
so,
currently
so-
receives, the currently receives 4%.
All right. Of Comcast revenue. All right, so the city receives the city currently receive, no, the city, no, yeah, right, hold on. The city receives 4% of Comcast gross cable television revenue that comes from the operation of the cable system for the provision of cable services, including the above mentioned public education and government access channels. These channels are referred to by the acronym PEG. Would that sound right?
I think we still wanted the word currently receives.
All right, so the city currently receives.
And change system to television.
So Alderman Jettie here. While I'm thinking of it, Cheryl Paquette, who is the one of the assistants of the legislative assistants to the Board of Aldermen, who transcribes these minutes, asked me to mention that she's not familiar with all of our voices, so she asked that we state who we are every time we speak. Some of us she knows, but a lot of us she's not familiar with. So when you start to say something, if you could just say your name to help her out, she would appreciate it. So my point was that to satisfy Mr. Johnson's concern, and I think it's a good one, perhaps just adding a sentence there after these channels are referred to by the acronym PEG. Maybe we could just add a sentence saying, the the city does not, rather than trying to play with cable services or cable TV services, maybe we ought to just say, the city receives no portion of the of internet or telephone service, something to that effect, just to.
I think they provide enough other services that it just may be easier to talk about cable TV portion because they do mobile now. They have a mobile service. They have home security and other areas that they service. And this is Pete Johnson.
Nick Miserich here. I agree with Mr. Johnson. Instead of listing out what it doesn't include, because the list is going to probably continually to grow as Comcast provides more services. We should just focus on that. This is just for cable television and leave it at that.
Yeah, Alderman Jettie here. Yeah, I agree. I think that makes sense. So Mr. Johnson, what you want to do is just add TV to, comes from the operation of the cable TV system.
Cable television services. And that is, I think, the appropriate term to use. So, any other service that's part of cable TV, if they're collecting something because they're selling Showtime, or that they have a pay-per-view event that's a television event, those franchise fees are also imposed on those other television-related services.
Okay, so Alderman Jettie, so your suggestion is that it be operation of the cable television services and eliminate cable system for the provision of cable services? Is that your suggestion?
I think that makes the most sense. Or cable television related services, and take out the second reference to cable that's in that sentence.
So, Mr. Painter, do you understand what he's saying? Do you have?
All right, wait a minute. So the city currently receives 4% of Comcast gross cable television revenue that comes from the operation of the cable television services, including the above mentioned public education and government access channels.
I think that's probably pretty good.
Yeah.
Because we do say then it's important to understand that the franchise agreement only covers cable related, or I guess cable television
Yes.
services and facilities. Cable television service, okay. Cable television. Oh, I should learn how to spell. Okay, I think I got it.
Do we have a deadline date by which we want the survey responses submitted? So in here, it's June, no date 2021. Do we have a particular date in mind based on our renewal timeline?
I would think if you gave people up to 4 weeks, assuming that we started this next week, want to have some time available for people to learn about it and get online and take the survey. So I would think 4 weeks would be adequate.
So that would, if the survey went live and was loaded onto the website by the 17th, is that doable by the 17th to have everything up and loaded?
This is Kim Kleiner. I think we could work if the committee approved the survey this morning. We could look to have it posted by the end of the week, which would be the 14th. And then once we close the survey, there's certain cleanup that would take place of compiling the information, and then possibly have it ready for, if we close it the 11th, we could have it ready for the committee on the 15th of June.
Okay. Is everybody okay with that timeline? Okay. Great.
Let me just make sure, oh, sorry. Jeff
Mr.
Painter.
Painter.
Just make sure I got it. So the deadline to submit a survey response is June 11th, 2021. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, let me make sure.
What day is the week is that? I don't have a calendar in front of me.
June 11th is a Friday.
Is there any reason why you wouldn't want to include Saturday and Sunday? We're not going to look at that data over the weekend anyhow and give people an extra weekend to complete the survey. So make it the 13th instead of the 11th.
This is Kim Kleiner. I was just concerned about getting the information, having it compiled and having time to get it out to the committee prior to Tuesday morning.
No one's going to do that till Monday anyways, likely, correct?
Correct. I mean,
If
yes,
you
I mean,
use a,
we would, but
yeah, Pete Johnson, if you use a product like Survey Monkey or something like that, that's going to compile the data for you anyhow.
yes, there was no, Kim Kleiner, sorry. There's no comment, general comment on this one. There was on the 2015 survey. We allowed people to give general comment. And those had to be downloaded and worked out. There were over almost 200 of them. So it would be easier with this. That's correct.
I think we'll have the general comment during our public hearing. Allow people to have comment at that point.
So the Cheryl Linder, does the committee want to go with the date of the 11th then or the 13th? Any thoughts?
Alderman Jettie here. I think, the more time we give people, the better. I was thinking, so I guess I would go with the 13th if that's, but I don't want to, make Ms. Kleiner's job any more difficult than it already is. So if she feels that the 11th makes it easier for her and her people, that's fine. But if she can accommodate people like Mr. Johnson suggests to make it the 13th, I would go along with that. But so could I ask Ms. Kleiner, are you okay with the 13th?
Kim Kleiner, I am. If we could do Sunday, maybe at midnight, because I don't think there would be many people after midnight on Sunday.
Yeah, that's past my bedtime. Yeah.
After midnight, it's Monday.
Right. The only other request that I would make is that I want to be sensitive to giving the committee time to look at it before Tuesday morning, and we may not get it out to you until mid-afternoon on Monday, and I just would want to make sure that the committee's okay with that.
So Alderman Jettie here. So it makes me ask the question, so once we get this survey, what do we anticipate we're going to be, what action are we going to have to take with it? Anything, or is it just information we're being provided? I mean, are we going to have to do anything on Tuesday morning with it?
Kim Kleiner, I do know that there was some significant discussion over it. It did lead to, the survey led to one of the recommendations of the subcommittee in 2015 and their request of Comcast for some customer service monitoring. Not that I have found much that resulted from that, and I'm still doing my research, But it was noted during those meetings that the survey, because of responses they received during the survey, they made that request to Comcast.
So Alderman Jettie here. So is that something we would be dealing with on our meeting of the Tuesday, the 15th, or could that wait until our meeting of Tuesday, the 22nd?
Kim Connor, I think that's totally up to the committee. I am certainly hoping far before then we have response from Comcast on the number of requests that we have sent over. And with that information, it may just be compiling more information at that point. We'll have the directors meetings. And I think we'll still be compiling more, if not even identifying some other information that we possibly may need. So I don't think that the meeting of the 14th would require us to do something with the survey if the committee didn't want to discuss it.
Okay, so do we want to set the deadline for midnight on the 13th, and then we'll have a little bit of time to review it before June 15th, I guess, that Tuesday? Is that what the committee would like to do, so we can get that finalized?
Pete Johnson, it sounds fine to me, timing wise.
Does anybody else have any concerns or questions or comments on anything that we've discussed so far, the opening or the timeline? No? All right. Do we need a motion, Attorney Bolton, to approve this opening to put up on the website, or are we good with the changes as made?
It's essentially unanimous by acclamation.
Okay. All right. All right, so we'll have the survey go live on the 14th of May, which is this Friday. And it will be active through Sunday, June 13th at midnight. Okay. If we don't have any more discussion or comments on that document, there were a couple additional pieces of information that were sent over. Do you, Attorney Bolton, would you like to speak to any of the documents, or Ms. Kleiner to the documents that were sent over to the committee?
Well, I can talk about, I sent over a proposed agreement from Bill August, who's a lawyer in Massachusetts, who has extensive experience, including experience with Nashua, in helping communities with cable franchise renewals. And he proposes that he would bill at a rate of $2.25 an hour, and the agreement details the services that would be provided. I don't know him personally, but I've spoken to him. He seems very knowledgeable. Meanwhile, I talked to Attorney O'Donnell at Donnie, Tucker and Shindella. That's a New Hampshire law firm. Their main office is in Exeter, and they have a couple of other offices around the state as well. Kate Miller, who I recognize her name, but I don't know her personally, is their primary person who is involved with cable franchise renewals and representing communities in that regard. Her billing rate is $195 an hour. Brendan O'Donnell works in that area with her, and his billing rate is somewhat less than that. Recently, maybe last year or so, They helped out with Derry and its franchise renewal. The total billings to Derry were in the range of $11,000 for that effort, so that can give you some idea. Brandon has indicated to me that he's going to submit a written proposal to us, and when that arrives, I will forward it to all of you. So that's where we are in terms of looking at getting legal assistance through this process. I have no particular expertise in this regard. I do know that we have very limited leverage in trying to negotiate anything with the franchisee. So I am not sure that hiring outside counsel, while they will bring expertise that I don't have, whether that will be worth the investment in terms of what we get back is very difficult to say. I do not really see us reaping great rewards, financial or otherwise, no matter how sternly and strictly hard we try and conduct the negotiations.
Should we hold off on continuing that discussion until we receive the other proposal? Do you feel like that's coming through shortly, or maybe
do.
by our next meeting?
Yeah, I think if everyone's willing to wait till the next meeting, we'll probably have some proposals from Donahue Tucker and Chandala to look at.
Nick Miserich here. Would it be possible to reach out to someone at the city of Derry to find out, what benefit that their attorney had in the franchise agreement?
I mean, I could randomly call and see if I could talk to the town manager. I don't know if Kim is acquainted with anyone over there. Maybe she'd be a better person to do that, but if people want me to do it, I can do it.
Kim Kleiner, it's up to Attorney Bolton, but I'd be happy to make a call. I do know some.
Well, as long as you've got a relationship already, it strikes me that we'll make use of that.
Kim
All right.
Kleiner.
So we'll hold off on that until next week, and we'll get some more information. Were there any additional documents that we needed to review that were sent over?
This is Kim Kleiner. So I sent 2 documents in our research of what happened with the last renewal. One is the City of Nashua System Report. So this was information that was provided by Comcast. This is information that we have requested from Mr. Christensen again, with much more detailed information this time. But we wanted to give the committee a little bit of background to compare the information we will receive against. The other was an overall progress letter that had been given to various boards and published on the website. The interesting part of this was during the last renewal, we created a page on the website in which all the documents went. And I thought that was important. So as we're gathering information and that becomes public information, I thought it may be important to do this again. It does seem like the page was temporary, and I'm not sure how long it was up for, but on there they put the results of the survey, various information that was gathered. So I wanted to see if the committee would like to use that again, and we could have our website individual create another page.
I don't think that can hurt. I think it will draw more attention to the process and bring another level of transparency. What does the rest of the committee feel? Yes, Mr. Painter, you're on mute.
I saw it. Sounds good. I mean, that sounds like a good thing to do.
So, all right, so we'll plan on having that additional page up as information becomes available. I think some of the information we have available now, members of the committee, and what we can and can't control in the negotiation. So maybe it can be a page in progress, a working page, and we add information as we have it. Does that sound like a plan? All right, thank you very much. All right. Is there anything else that we need to review or confirm or vote on today to move forward?
Pete Johnson here. I was just concerned. I know we had talked at the first meeting about having a meeting with our group as well as other leaders in city government.
Mhm.
And I just wonder if we could either look at, setting a timeline for that.
We have a meeting set up on Thursday morning. And it is at 8 a.m. and I believe the information for that is posted or will be posted shortly with members of our city team. And the committee should have received an invite for that. Did you all receive an invite? If you didn't, I can resend it.
Just, I will not be able to be there. I have a dentist appointment scheduled at that point in time, 8 o'clock. So.
Yes, Mr. Payne.
Jeff Painted, I'll be there, so I can just pass everything along for you, Pete.
Nick Miservich, Cheryl, Pete was not on that distribution list.
All right, I will forward it to you, Pete. My apologies.
I'll try to get in there as soon as possible and see if it's still going on.
I'm sending this over to you now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Kim Kleiner, it is posted on the city website.
Okay, and I'm hoping to share the survey with the attendees prior to that so they can look over it and see if they have any questions or anything like that. But I just wanted to give them a heads up as to what the survey was going to look like. So do we have anything else? Anything else that anyone would like to discuss? Mr. Painter?
Just Jeff Painted. I will send this edited version out as soon as we're done here at the meeting to everybody.
Thank you. Ms. Kleiner, did you have something? No.
Mr. Painter beat me to it. So if he's sending it out, then we will get IT working on creating the survey so it's up on Friday.
Thank you all very much. All right, if there's nothing else, do we have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Painter,
Motion to adjourn.
do we have a second?
Kim
I'll
Kleiner,
second.
Right. Oh, we have to do a roll call vote, correct? Attorney Bolton? Okay, so Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Painter,
Yes.
Mr. Miservich,
Yes.
Ms. Kleiner,
yes.
Attorney Bolton,
Yes.
Alderman Jettie,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Lindner says yes. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you on Thursday.
Thank you so much.